Once we have logged into the system, I'm going to take you into one of the subsidiaries and take you to a picture-driven overview of the P2P process. On the screen, I have various sections. I have, in my data section, access to various master files. We have suppliers here. Note that supplier is a dimension or label, so that means it can be used for reporting purposes. For example, we can create a report on spending per supplier. For a bit more information about dimensions and about how they increase the efficiency and power of the reports that we can pull out of Sage Intacct, please view our video about dashboards and reporting. From this page, I also have access to my warehouses. I have my inventory items, which can be non-stock or stock items, so physical or services. I have product lines, which are useful for reporting or for the mass updating of prices. And I can access my purchasing price lists from this page as well. Now, in the task section, I can see a typical procure to pay business process or workflow. I have first a purchase requisition document, which is then converted into a purchase order. Then, depending on my business process, the PO can be converted into a receiving document or a GRV, a goods received voucher, or it can bypass the receiving step and be converted straight into a purchase invoice, in which case this receiving step can even be grayed out. The purchase invoice can then be matched either using a two-way matching or a three-way matching if a receiving step was involved. Then I may also want to return the item. From this page, you can also see that we can merge or split transactions, print or email transactions, and I can have access here to my purchasing approvals. Note that for any one of these transactions on this page, I can set up approvals. Then in the reporting section, we have very useful reports that are available to us straight out of the box. For example, a transaction list and a purchasing analysis. From the accounts payable module, we have even more reports, such as an aging report, if we want to see which invoices we need to prioritize for the next payment run. I'm going to select one of these reports and notice how many report filters we have available to us, which will allow us to customize this report. If I view this report, I'm able to drill down on anything in blue. If I'd like to get further information about it, I can go right down to master file level. Going back to the report, I can also print this report if I'd like to distribute it physically. I can email it to distribute it digitally. We can memorize this report. For example, if we like the particular set of filters that we chose when running this report, we can memorize it so that we do not need to select those filters each time that we run the report again. We can also export this report in various formats, and we can add this report to a dashboard so that users can have easy access to the report in real time, which is a really great feature. So now I'm going to walk you through the P2P process. Before I do that, however, what I would like to do is show you the approval policies that have been set up in this particular environment so that I can call your attention to how these approvals work as we go through the process. So I'm going to head over to Purchasing Setup and Approval Policies, and you'll see how easy it is to set up and manage approvals. Note as well that unlike some other systems, everything that I show you in terms of approvals comes standard with the product. You don't need to have an add-on. So on the purchase requisition or PR, I have an approval which looks to the employee's manager as the approver for that particular document. On the PO, I have quite a detailed approval set, so I'd really like to show you this one as one that demonstrates the level of detail that I can get out of my approval processes. So for example, this one is based not only on the value, but on the department. So I see that if there is no department that is specified, then Emma Penny can approve anything from $1,000 to just below $100,000, and that Tom Waits would then need to approve anything from $100,000 and above. But for specific departments, those approvals can be set differently. So once again, just a very good example to show how granular our approval policies can become. Okay, heading back, there is one more approval policy that's been set up here. Draft invoices must be approved by Tom. So notice there how the rule type was different for every one of these approval policies that we've looked at. Just shows you the variety that is available, and these were just some of the criteria options. Okay, so let's work through the process. Let's go to a purchase requisition that is in the system. Let me take you to purchase requisition 01. In this purchase requisition, I can see, for example, that I can attach documents, and I can attach multiple documents, which would be very useful, for example, if you needed to have 2 or more quotes per purchase requisition. I can save the documents right to the purchase requisition, and by doing so, I am saving them in the cloud. Another feature that I'd like to draw your attention to is at the bottom of the page here, the collaboration feature. This communication between team members can be especially relevant when it comes to approvals. For example, if the approver declines the transaction because something has been entered incorrectly, that can be communicated through collaboration. Note as well that if a document is declined, it can be edited and resubmitted. It does not need to be voided or deleted. Back up to the history tab. Please note, as this is a 2016 transaction, that I am looking at this transaction in retrospect. So by clicking on this tab, I can see all of the transactions that followed this particular transaction. First though, I'd like to once again draw your attention to the approval process. So as mentioned previously, for purchase requisitions, the rule that I had was that the manager of the employee needs to approve this particular requisition. This was created by Nick, and I can tell you that in the employee hierarchy, Chuck is Nick's manager, and Chuck is the person who has approved this document, with the comments over there at the end. Of course, we can temporarily bypass or change the approver. If, for example, Chuck is on holiday, we can set the approver as somebody else. Okay, so this particular purchase requisition was converted to purchase order 05, and because this purchase order was below the threshold for approvals, I will not see an approval history for it. Then what happened is that it was converted into a fulfillment document, or a GRV, a receiver. And if this was an inventory environment, this would have caused an automatic accrual transaction to take place, and that accrual would have been reversed in the next step when a purchase invoice was created. So if I head over to this purchase invoice, I do notice that there are payment details that has been paid in full, but I'd like to take you to the payments page to show you how that payment process would have taken place. So I'm going to head over to the payments page. Okay, on this page, I'm going to select a date range filter to make it easier for me to do my payment run. Over here, I can see that I have various payment methods available to me. A record transfer or an EFT is quite popular. An ACH or bank file would be a file that could be exported from Sage Intacct and then imported into our bank. If I move on to the end here, quite a nice feature is that I can see my bank balance for the bank account that has been chosen here. And what that means is that if I select invoices, and I can select multiple, this figure will update and I will see how this particular payment run is going to affect my bank balance and decide which bank account I'd like to use accordingly. As mentioned, I can select multiple invoices. I can click on the invoice so that I can see the details without having to leave the payment run. A discount will be automatically applied if it is within the terms of this particular supplier. I can also apply any credits that I have so that I don't miss out on any discounts. I also have here an add to outbox feature. And what that allows me to do, let's say I do my payment run at the end of the week on a Friday, but I don't want that payment run to become overwhelming. Then throughout the week, I can sort of generate these payments and put them in the outbox so that at the end of the week, when it's time to do my payment run, I can just release those from the outbox, sort of a holding area. Okay, so I'd now like to show you briefly how the spend management feature works. It would take a separate demonstration to go into detail about its features and benefits, especially in donation-driven industries. But for now, I can give you a sneak peek and you can feel free to contact us for a full demonstration of this powerful feature. I'm going to open a new tab, which will take me to the landing page dashboard. On this dashboard, let's have a quick look at the profit and loss situation. So I see here in my operating expenses section that I have overspent on most of the accounts against the budget this month. Now, it is great that I can see that. It really sticks out in red and it alerts me that I need to make some changes going forward. But this doesn't change the fact that this has already happened, and any such changes would probably be difficult now. Spend management provides a way for companies to automatically control spending according to a specific budget, informing users of when an expense exceeds the set budget at the time of entering the transaction. This allows for proactive rather than reactive spend management, and this will allow you to make critical course corrections in real time before expenses occur and it's too late. So let's go and create a purchase order against the budget. While I am creating this particular purchase order, I'm going to be able to call out a couple of features that I was not able to call out earlier because we were not creating an order in real time. So note here that purchase order 46 has a status of pending, which means that it has not been converted yet into an invoice. And the value of this particular purchase order is $120. The second purchase order that is in the system has not yet been saved at all. So if I now go and create a new purchase order, I'm going to enter some details for this. I'm going to work in 2017 because that's where my budget is sitting. Note that when I add a supplier, on the fly, I could add a new supplier if I needed to. If I couldn't remember some of the details of this supplier, I could find, and I could also view extra details. When I add the supplier, certain fields are automatically updated, such as the address fields, the currency of the transaction, and the payment terms. Okay, if I scroll down, I'm going to add the item here and change the location, and I'm going to make this $150. So If I now click on Show Spend Insight, I can see that I already have invoices or an invoice in the system to the value of $750 against this particular budget of $1,000. I showed you that there was an existing purchase order, and that purchase order was to the value of $120. So although that particular purchase order has not been converted into an invoice, it has to be taken into account when dealing with this budget because that amount has been committed, unlike the other purchase order which was in draft. So this purchase of $150 would therefore leave me in the red to the value of $20. This means that if I were to try to post this particular order, I would get a warning message. Note that depending on the setup, I can either decide whether to get warnings, which can be overridden, or whether I must be stopped dead in my tracks. There can also be approval set up around this, and if I do choose to override a warning, the approval will be made aware of the fact that this is an over budget expense and be able to make a key decision on the fly about whether to approve this transaction or not. So in review, I have shown you how Sage Intacct's Procure-to-Pay process is an integrated solution. Its customizable approval process allows for strong internal control. Collaborate adds another level of efficiency to that process as you can communicate within the system with the source document in front of you. We've looked at how easy it is to do a payment run and how even a simple feature such as Outbox can streamline the process so that you don't have to worry about the payment run becoming onerous. We saw how the spend management feature can help you to prevent surprises when pulling actual versus budget reports. And we've looked at how you can produce and distribute real-time reports to whomever you need to. So how can what I've shown you today enhance your current P2P process? We'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much.